a plagiarism. I might join your century, but only on a rare occasion. I was taken up in for the labor pains I did. I never heard the world's worst accident. I had to go anachronism. You can tell by the red in my eyes and the bruises on my thighs and the knots in my hair and the bath full of flies that I'm not right now at all. There I go again, pretending that I'll fall. Don't call it actors, they've seen it all before. They'll say, just let her crash and burn. She'll learn the attention just encourages her. And you can tell from the full body cast that you're sorry that you asked, that you did everything you could like any decent person would, but I might be catching, so don't touch.
Anarchy! All association formed voluntarily, acting in a spirit of solidarity. This is Thinking Liberty.
You can make like a rap out of that. Voluntarily, solidarity. Yeah, like that.
You're the rapper in this crew here.
That's a you're really stretching terms there.
Yeah, I'm just the guy who yells things in the background.
I was actually thinking. Yeah, I was actually thinking I usually listen to like talk radio on the way up, and that somehow informs me a little bit more than my usual ignorance. And today on the ride up, I was listening to Wu-Tang Clan, so the quality of my contribution to this show could
only go up
terribly.
Could only be better.
ODB.
So it's Tuesday, April 26th. We're live on thinkingliberty.net. I'm Darian. We've got Bosco over there.
Hello.
We've got Bio on the controls.
Hello.
And Tennyson is somewhere out in the ether informing us with... We don't know where he is.
He's out in space. He's on the manned mission to Mars.
The manned mission to Mars.
Actually, we should have like a general beacon that we set up that tells us if Tennyson is north, south, west, or east of us. I think he's mostly south of us now.
Okay. We could just be creepy and install tracking devices or hack his phone and...
Well, we could just activate the tracking devices we already installed. Or talk about them.
Okay. So, if you are listening live, that is, it's, like 8 p.m. Eastern, and you want to contact us, we've got a chat room that's on the sidebar of thinkingliberty.net. You can call us at 919-88-NO-GOV.
No-GOV.
We've got a Skype. We've got Twitter. We've got
a
email.
Skype on the internets.
We've got a Skype. You can do a Skype on us.
Which, by the way, I really despise Skype.
Why do you hate Skype?
Well, unless someone knows a better service, and since I've already put on for another year of our Skyped in line, then it's not going to help us any right now. But I transitioned from having a NTPC based on a Mac OS Mac Mini to a NVIDIA Ion Atom platform, and I put Linux on it. And it was the same issue on the Mac, but Skype consumes so many resources on a PC. And I put in like improvement requests on Skype's website, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're working on that." But it consumes like 3 or 4 times more CPU than and memory than like Google Chat does for doing the same thing.
Why don't you just use the open source Skype client?
I could set something up, but it's a pain.
Yeah, I concur.
All right, so we're going to get into some news a little bit later. We're going to have Stephanie Murphy on talking about Pork Fest, the festival of porcupines in New Hampshire.
8 different kinds of pork all weekend long.
All right. So that's coming up. It'll be about 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes, depending on how much you ramble.
Poor Stephanie, you keep pushing this back. 25,
25, 30, 35.
Sold.
Nah, it'll probably be around 8:20. And, so right now we're going to get into some news. Obama was recently heckled at a fundraising event.
You mean the singing?
There was singing.
That wasn't so much heckling. It was singing. was nice.
They can pay me $2,000 a head to heckle me. By the way, I will accept $2,000 per person for
I don't-
anybody to heckle me.
I don't think you're important enough to heckle.
Oh,
I think people just kind of like poke fun at you, but they're not going to pay to do that.
I'll throw a special dinner. I'll throw a roast, and it'll be $2,000 a plate. You can say whatever the heck you want about me for a whole evening.
You're not that important to
All
get.
right.
Damn.
Well, I'm gonna call up Comedy Central right now and be like, "Listen, you did it for David Hasselhoff. You can do it for Bosco."
Yes,
And they'll laugh you off the phone.
but maybe they'll
Unless-
give you a show because you're a funny guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you can convince them that Bosco is actually someone else that should be roasted, and just show up with
Like-
him at the last minute.
Like, yeah, the product Bosco is named after him. He's so famous. He's huge in Germany. They love him there.
I don't
Big
think
in
that's going to be good
Japan.
enough.
Oh, so anyway, okay. So for those uninitiated with this story, what happens?
Uninitiated?
Yes.
Basically, Obama had a major campaign fundraiser because, now that he wants to get elected again, he's going to fly around the country and raise money for his next campaign. And so he had this dinner and people paid a lot of money to get in. And then some of people who I guess they still supported him or they were supporters. They started singing about Bradley Manning and they had Bradley Manning shirts on. I don't know if that's really the most effective way to
They said
to
they
show
were gonna vote
opposition.
for him too.
yeah, it seems like you could have some people outside of the event maybe who didn't pay all that money to do this. But I guess it's good that people are asking him questions. There was some video on YouTube. People were asking him about Bradley Manning, and he's trying to explain why he's in prison. And he finally says at some point, well, he broke the law. So
Yeah, so
There-
he's already guilty.
So there's a lot in the commentary land about how this is basically the president pronouncing a guy guilty, and it is. I don't want to dismiss that fact. Some people are writing it up as if Obama made a speech where he declared he was guilty. But what actually happened, which in some ways is more interesting, is that Obama was almost off guard, and it was an unguarded moment, and he's saying what he really thinks, that this guy broke the law,
And
and
you
he
can-
must suffer.
You can tell that he was, when he gets kind of cornered, he the tone of his voice changes, and he had that tone when he was upset. Did
His
not
little flustercluck.
he did not want to be there, and did sort of he broke the law, and it's interesting because I don't know if that could. I suppose since it wasn't on broadcast TV, it'd be harder to bring this point up, but I think that his lawyers could use that to his advantage, showing that that those involved are already biased. I mean, since the president is the top of the
Military
branch
chain of command.
right? But I don't know, since it was this random YouTube video. I don't know if it's actually
Well,
useful. in
that's
any
like
way.
the I don't have the link to it off the top of my head, but the article was talking all about that we were sending around earlier, where basically it's when you're in a military court, one of the things that they have to make sure of is that people don't feel influenced by the chain of command. So consequently, if you have the commander-in-chief of the armed services saying this thing, there's no way you will ever find anybody who can testify in that court who isn't being influenced by what Obama said. So, it supposedly makes it more difficult to try Bradley Manning. We'll see in actuality what happens. I don't know if it'll make that big of a difference. They'll probably just throw the book at him anyway.
Bradley Manning, if you don't know who he is, you should really go to bradleymanning.org right now
And you should write
read
him in
all
for
about
president
it.
2012.
And basically, he is being charged with a number of counts, including aiding the enemy, I believe, for allegedly revealing some secret military cover-ups and possibly diplomatic cables to WikiLeaks, which then sent them to various news organizations. Not a bunch of technical data on U.S. military equipment to Al-Qaeda or something like that. So it's just making public things that shouldn't have been covered up in the first place.
Whistleblowing,
Exactly.
basically.
Speaking of 2012, Ron Paul, I guess, is just like hours ago announced that he's putting together what are the
An exploratory committee.
So I'm glad in that probably the most amount of libertarians like per individual I think to ever be created probably came from Ron Paul, and I suspect that given things are so much worse this time around than it was in 2008, then maybe more people, and that there's not a Republican already in office, and so maybe the people will be more willing to listen to the Republican.
How much money does he have? Didn't he does he have like 28 million left or
No.
some big chunk?
I think he started the Campaign for Liberty or whatever it's called with like I think he had 4 to 5 million left over last time. So he rose. The amount of money he rose was not, I think, not as much as some of the other guys, but for the amount, like he spent the least given what he was able to accomplish, and ended up in the black, whereas I think everyone else ended up in the red except for Mitt Romney, but that's because he spent like $20 million of his own, and so I suspect he'll probably do the same. And then you've got the what's his face, Gary Johnson running, which might double their influence in that they'll have 2 out of 9 instead of 1 out of 9 or whatever the collection of people on stage are.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this. In the one sense, I see that Ron Paul is better than everyone I see, except maybe Gary Johnson. I don't know
He's
too
better
much
than Gary
about
Johnson.
Gary Johnson, but I think as long as people just push him as a better candidate and not the
Savior.
the savior of everything, and someone who's infallible. I think
Liberty
that's
for
good.
everyone except immigrants. No liberty for them.
So I mean I think really it's going to depend on how the campaign goes, and I really it does seem like a lot of people got interested in libertarian ideas as a result of Ron Paul. I would like to see more like actual in-depth studies on where these people went, like if there are other ways they would have been exposed to it and things like that.
From my general, the people that I know from either the Free State Project or Manhattan, which had the largest meetup group, I think almost certainly those people would not have been interested otherwise, because there wouldn't have been a public figure, which is how they found out about it. Like he was in a debate, they saw the debate and they're like, this guy doesn't sound like a complete moron. And their backgrounds were varied. So I doubt very much that they would be to where they are today. And some of the guys in New York, they went from supporting Ron Paul to being in the Campaign for Liberty type group, and then now they're just like Austrian anarchist, like Rothbardian types with different leanings, but they've many of them moved past even bothering with politics, and they all still support Paul as far as I can tell, but they're not interested in the same way they were 4 years ago, which is rather rapid development for someone who was like from all these people I know in New York that came from all kinds of different backgrounds.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see more being put into other efforts. Center for Stateless Society, some of the social anarchists trying to buy their own buildings and things like that. But from the perspective of the world we live in, I think it's good to have a guy who's kind of in the conservative group. He talks the same language, he rolls in the same circles as a lot of conservatives, speaking the language of liberty. It's not necessarily, and yeah, certainly there's a danger that libertarian ideas will become too associated with right-wing ideas, but there's also the chance that people who are kind of right-wing will hear Ron Paul in addition to, I don't know, who the hell else is out there. What's
Huckabee?
Gingrich? Who the hell is even in the
Oh,
Republican running right now? I don't know. Palin, Gingrich, all those assholes. It's a lot better that they see those assholes and
whoa.
Ron Paul.
You are
instead
going to
of
besmirch Sarah Palin on our show when we record this under a giant Sarah Palin wrestling a grizzly bear poster? What is wrong with you?
a lot of things.
You have betrayed everything I have grown to love about you.
Well, that's okay. I didn't want to have a cult of personality anyway. So yeah, so I'd rather the people who are in that kind of area of thinking anyway see, okay, Ron Paul, he's explaining that this is good, and then hopefully there will be people who can play off of whatever message Ron Paul sends. So it's not a one-man show or a one specific ideology, one specific group pushing change in one direction. There are a lot of players out there, and how Ron Paul fits in, I think he can have some positive impact.
Oh, well, there's certainly something to say. I mean, whether or not you like it or not, people in our current society look up to figureheads. And if he can be a libertarian figurehead, I'm better with that than like Obama being the figurehead. That's for sure.
NPR
Chains?
used the
yes, chains. Right.
Chains used the term libertarian-leaning internet youths to describe
Those
Ron Paul
hooligans.
followers. I'm like, that's a pretty funny phraseology there.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's kind of weird, the whole messianic politics, how Obama embodied change, and Ron Paul certainly, in some cases, does that for some people.
He certainly offers more change than Obama.
That is true,
or at least that vector.
But we'll see how it goes. And hopefully...
I suspect he will, and I hope that they both will stay in it till Johnson or Paul stay in it till the very end. I suspect that Paul will probably win out over Johnson, but just like last time, just keep money in the bank so that you can be there when there's only two left, so that you're debating the neocon on the other side, because at that point you have to be heard. Like Paul had to be heard when it was him and McCain.
Yeah,
and those were good debates.
I think the big win is the broadcast television debate time you get, and that sort of stuff you get out of it. That's really the good stuff I think you get out of it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, though, I mean, even with the craptastic lineup for the Republicans, like I really don't, from a general Republican point of view, I don't see anyone that sticks out except for Romney, and he has all kinds of problems. Even with that, I don't think Paul has much of a chance. But man, what would I pay to see Ron Paul go one-on-one with Obama for like an hour and a half? Like, that would be so much fun.
We were kind of having this discussion on the way home the other day. We were talking about, what would be the best debates. I was thinking one that I didn't bring up that should be brought up: Stefan Molyneux versus Hillary Clinton. Hour-long debate. I think
that one's good too.
That'd be pretty fun. I'd like to see that.
All right,
I think Stefan versus any politician, like any of the 536 of them.
Stefan Molyneux versus Kim Jong-un.
Well, there you go.
That wouldn't go
well. Ron Paul, certainly, I have a lot of issues with him, not just on immigration, but also abortion and queer issues. But I mean, once again, he's a political candidate. It's a pretty statist point of view to pitch any candidate as the solution to all our problems. For most people, it's just a matter of who's going to screw me less and who's going to screw liberty less. And in any case, having someone get more ideas into the discourse, even if he doesn't present them all that well, I think is a benefit. So I believe we are going to head into a break, and when we come back, we're going to have Stephanie Murphy talking about the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which is going to be this summer, and it's going to be awesome. So stick around.
You can't get more specific than this summer.
This summer.
It's does it officially start on that Monday? Yeah, it officially starts on the Monday. So
on the Monday.
23rd, 22nd,
the end of June,
21st, 20th. So it officially starts on June 20th.
You're going to have to stick around after the break to hear all about PorcFest.
All right.
So stick around for more thinkingliberty.net.
I
And we're back on ThinkingLiberty.net, the Anarcho Bombast podcast.
One of the sheer thrills of being in this room with you is watching you with your Pavlovian wait for that light to come on, and you're like ready for your intro, and then you hear the little beep, and the light comes on. It's like,
Yes, exactly like that. I'm actually like almost shaking a little bit because I'm just like holding the mic so hard, like
you're so intense.
waiting
All right.
for it to go.
So we got a guest on. Who do we have?
We have Stephanie Murphy on the line. Stephanie, how are you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today.
Oh, thank you for being on. And what are you here to talk about?
Pork Fest.
Ooh, and what exactly is Pork Fest for those who do not know?
Well, if anyone who doesn't know what Pork Fest is, then they've probably been living under a rock, I would say. But just in case you haven't, it's the Free State Project has an event every year called the Porcupine Freedom Festival. And if anybody's not familiar with the Free State Project, it's a organization dedicated to getting liberty-loving individuals to move to New Hampshire and become activists to get more freedom in our lifetimes. And they have this event every year that's kind of designed to showcase New Hampshire and get people excited about living here and, you know, get them kind of plugged into the community, meet the people who are already here and who are planning to move. And so we've got this great event planned, and it's really not just one event. It's more like hundreds of sub events, and it's about people coming together, meeting each other, mingling, having a great time, and doing all kinds of fun things out in the woods with some fellow liberty lovers.
Cool. So let's say I'm Free State curious, and I've heard of this Porcupine Freedom Festival, and people keep telling me it's awesome. So I head up there and I come in, so what can I expect when I walk into this place?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, I like your phrase, Free State Curious. That's very cute. It actually is a great event for people who are liberty curious or kind of always wanted to meet some real anarchists, that kind of thing. It's a great way to get to know people. And even before the event, you can start networking. We've got a website up, porcfest.com. That's porcfest.com. And if you go there, you can find out a lot more about the event, including looking at some videos and pictures from previous Pork Fests. And there's a forum there where you can ask questions and start to meet people, maybe make arrangements to share travel or share tent sites once you get there. And you can look at the schedule, which has all these different little sub-events that I was telling you about before, and just kind of start to check out what's going on. But something that your listeners might be particularly interested in is Agora Valley, which is this really unique place, the biggest collection of real live agorism that I've ever seen in my life. And it gets bigger and bigger every year. And it's basically just this market that comes about when a bunch of people who come to Pork Fest are selling and buying and trading goods and services. There's a lot of alternative currency flowing around, and nobody's asking permission from any government, and it's great.
Well, so the agora in ancient Greece was the open marketplace, and I'm not too familiar with my ancient Greek history.
They're going to yell at you in the chat room because the couch activist was just like, she actually pronounced agorism right, and you were like, well, the agora.
The agora.
Yeah, they're gonna jump on it.
So it's so it's. What was I saying?
I'm sorry. We got
it was a major public marketplace, but also a place of the public sphere where you could talk to people, discuss things, and I think that's one of the great things about it. I guess last year was Agora Alley. This year it sounds like Agora Valley, which sounds a little bigger.
Next year,
Correct.
Agora State.
Yeah, it keeps expanding every year, and there are some people who are starting to use the tagline that every PorcFest there are people that gather to make the state obsolete, at least for a week or a weekend, as it was in past years. This year it's actually a whole week long. PorcFest is.
All right, we have in the chat room Agora Universe.
Yeah, you can actually get, I mean, just speaking from walking down Agora Alley last year, you can get all kinds of interesting things and cool stuff. And the nice thing about a market like that, the way it works, is since you don't have the regulation hampering anything, you have a lot of little vendors the way this particular thing works out. So there's a big variety in things you can get. People tend to be very personable. You can talk to people. I mean, I remember I learned how Thai food was cooked, which I thought was kind of interesting. It was like, not only do I get to eat this delicious Thai food, but I also get to see the guy cook it and learn about where he learned how to cook it and his thoughts on it. And it's pretty neat.
That's two great things about Agora Alley that you don't often see in conventional commerce today: the low barrier of entry, which allows for a much bigger diversity, and the personableness. How would you even say the amount of personability. It's not impersonal. There's a lot of actual interaction, which is very nice.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I really like the story about the Thai food because it's kind of illustrative of what happens when people get together, and it's more than just people buying and selling things. It's actually a community, and the community kind of happens online even before PorcFest even starts. And so by the time people get there, they may have already met some of the people that they're trading with online, and they already are starting to know them and get excited about having them as their neighbors in Agora Valley, and then hopefully in New Hampshire later on. So
it's neat stuff. I mean, I seem to learn new things every year at PorcFest that I never would have necessarily known. Like at that same instance last year, I also learned I'm not a big precious metals I wouldn't say fan, but I'm not like a big sound money person. I don't jump up
You
on
don't like the sound of money?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not a big sound money advocate, I'd say. I don't have too strong a belief in that respect. But I did learn that when you hold silver coins, toss them in the air and hit them together, they make a very cool actual sound.
Yes, they do.
It sounds unlike anything else. It's like, I was like, that's pretty neat.
Actually, that's one of the tricks that the Liberty Dollar guys used to tell the people that were supposed to use it. It's just like, take them and let them fall in your hand so that they can hear what the sound of silver clanging together is, because it sounds so different than the nickel and copper you're used to.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, I was sitting next to a guy while the Thai food was being cooked, and he's like, yeah, here, play with these. I'm like, oh, that's pretty neat. He's like, yeah, you're playing with $60. I'm like, wow, $60? And that's small of an amount?
Now that would be worth like $100.
Oh, yeah, it'd be worth a heck of a lot more now.
As of today, the spot price for silver was about $45.
Whew. And as I hear, too, isn't silver a little bit more volatile than gold when you look at it over time? Yeah, bounces around a bit more.
But gold is at 1,500, platinum is at 1,800, and palladium was at like 730 or so.
What about copper?
I don't know. That's not on the precious metal websites.
All right, so
more than a penny.
So here's I try to bring up some maybe objections, and you mentioned that it's making the state obsolete at least for a week. I think someone who is maybe cynical will say, well, okay, great, you're making it obsolete for a week, so basically you're just having a big party and nothing changes. So, how would you address someone who brought that up?
Punching them.
I would not advocate punching them, but I would say that that's a criticism that I have heard before, that, there's too much partying that goes on and there's not that much real activism. And I have to say that, so many of the entrepreneurs that are going to be in Agora Valley and at PorcFest promoting their organizations, because it's not just all businesses, it's also different liberty-related organizations that are going there to network and stuff like that. They take it really seriously, and having this opportunity to actually physically get together and be in close proximity to each other, new businesses will spring up out of that and form, and new organizations are born. And actually, I know you guys interviewed Teresa, who is one of the founders of Free Aid, which is an organization that I've been involved in. And last year at PorkFest, it was actually Teresa and Garland Fix who were sitting and talking about, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a mutual aid organization that could help do CPR awareness and education? And out of that, our organization was born, and now we're going to be at PorkFest this year, and a number of other Liberty events kind of providing these volunteer emergency medical services. So it's hard to put a number or quantify on how many great things come out of people just being together and having that mixing pot of different ideas. But it's really something that's very, very unique. And having those relationships with people, maybe you've met them online, but it's completely different meeting them in person and actually starting to build those things up. So I think there really is value in doing, of course, some socializing and partying too, but also that important aspect of just networking and being with people in person.
Right, so you could call it a networking event or networking opportunity, but perhaps maybe a less boring sounding phrase for that.
Yeah, I think that sounded way too businesslike. And there is like there's a lot of fun that goes on at PorkFest too. I mean, I'm just sitting here looking at the schedule now, and there's a humans versus zombies game. There's the Soapbox Idol, which is a rant competition essentially that ended with somebody pantsless last year.
Rant till your pants fall off.
There's Buzz's big gay dance party. Buzz is trying to get some more LGBT folks to move to New Hampshire, so she has this big party. There's not only adult events, but also there's activities for kids the whole week: crafting, hiking, field trips. The kids Agorist Expo, where the kids can do some entrepreneurship themselves. And then there's a kids carnival that goes all day on Saturday at PorkFest. So there's really something for everybody. I mean, no matter what you're interested in, there's firearm stuff. There's the Liberty Ladies one pot cook-off, which is always something that I look forward to, being one of the tasting judges for all these things.
That is by far my favorite event. I think I've said multiple times on this show that it's like the greatest thing conceived ever.
I love food.
Pretty much. You like go down to a little table and they just give you a treasure map to food, and then you just got to find all the food and eat it. It's delicious.
It's like
Yeah, but that's a lot of
foraging,
work.
except the food's actually made for you already.
Yeah, and it's got the treasure map.
Yeah, but that means you have to walk around. Like, here in the city or near the city, you could just sit here and have someone bring food to you.
Yeah, but you wouldn't get to try, all sorts of... well, actually, no, you're in the city. You would get to try all sorts of
there's
different
It's
stuff.
not an
Indian,
adventure.
Thai.
But then you can get all hungry from walking around, and then you say, "Oh, I'm so hungry. I need to have some more food."
That's true. And the people are way cooler. Talking
Yeah.
about networking, one thing that I've definitely noticed is that, if you hang around New Hampshire and stuff like that, you get the people you see at PorkFest, you see again. So, like, I last year saw the Bardo Farm folks at PorkFest. I was like, wow, they're really cool. They're doing a lot of neat things. And then I was in Grafton later that summer, and it's like, holy crap, here's one guy I know who's running an excavator, and he's doing this as a business. Or, like, same thing with Buzz. It's like, whoa, she's teaching framing carpentry. I'm like, this is pretty cool. I met these people before. So it's you do get to meet a lot of people who actually are doing things in the state. So the complaint that it doesn't necessarily carry over once PorkFest is done, I think is unfounded. You do see a lot of stuff happening after PorkFest is over.
It's like anybody
Yeah.
who tells you that they never take time to relax, that they're always doing something, they're always like working.
Always.
They're full of crap, or they're not working very effectively.
Always working all the time. All right, so I don't know. One thing I've been really impressed with PorkFest this year is like the just sheer amount of stuff and organization that seems to be going on. Like, it seems every time I look, there's like some new things, but I think it's also important to point out that it can also, you can just go there and pretty much relax. I'm usually kind of beat for some reason whenever I go to PorkFest, so I honestly, now this is going to sound really lame and the people are going to make fun of me in the chat room, but I will go to bed at PorkFest at like 9:30 on some nights, and I do just fine. It's, you still get to meet lots of people and hang out and stuff like that, so it's, you can do as much or as little as you want.
That is the thing about PorkFest. You can kind of make it your own schedule. There's always something going on. You always kind of feel like you might be missing something because there's just always stuff happening. But yeah, it is like that. And I have to say, Sovereign Curtis is the organizer of PorkFest this year. last year it was Carla, who's now the president of the Free State Project, and she did a great job the past 2 years. And now Curtis has taken it over. And every year, PorcFest has been growing and adding more events. The biggest new thing this year is that it's now officially a week. It used to be that people would kind of unofficially come for the whole week, but it was officially just basically a long weekend. But now it's the whole week, and so we have more space to put in different kinds of events. And wow, I mean, it's several months away, but the calendar is already almost full up with all these great events, and I'm already having trouble deciding which ones that I'm going to spend my time going to because there's so many great things.
Cool. So we were talking about people. What are some of the guest speakers that are going to be there?
Oh, great question. So Stefan Molyneux and J. Neil Schulman are both of interest to people, I guess, who consider themselves agorists or anarchists are going to be there, and they'll be speaking. And Roderick Long was also just confirmed. I was really excited about all those speakers. And there are some other speakers too. There's, I believe, Bob Murphy is going to be there as well. Brett Van Knott from School Sucks podcast, and I'm sure others to come as well.
We will be
But,
there.
You will be there.
Wow,
Most importantly,
you little full of yourself over there, Bile.
oh, she brought up a podcast. so it's
Stefan Molyneux, Roderick Long, Bile. You know.
like- I fought.
Hey.
I
One
fought
of these
the man, and I
things
won.
is not
Shush.
like the other.
Yeah, I'm actually
you-
going to be probably doing a talk at the Alt Expo, the tent they got set up
You're
there.
plugging
too.
yourself too, huh? All right.
Oh,
I said
people,
us.
the people have to know.
I plugged us. I didn't plug me. I plugged us. You're the.
I
you
just
two-
plugged Alt Expo. You know how alt that
and
is?
all
you're gonna
Expo
be a- you're
and
gonna
all
be a big
Expo
draw.
supports us. So there you go. Currently, we have I think the most listeners we've ever had before. We've got 21 live listeners. So PorcFest is big news.
We should say
And
something
so-
insightful and deep, like go to PorcFest. Damn it.
Yes, it's probably the
Yeah.
most important thing we could say all night.
Are you living freedom? that was my insightful and deep moment.
That's not insightful or deep.
long
That was
pause
just
after
that
it
was just a
makes-
question.
It was a
Well,
question. An
Here's my
question.
insightful and deep thing. Go to porcfest.com. Check it out. Once you see the website, you're going to be so excited that you're going to rush to make plans. You also have to go book your site with Rogers Campground if you want to camp out there. If you want to get a hotel room, I think Rogers is all full, but there are other hotels kind of in the same area. But if you do want a tent site, I think Rogers has this policy where they will, as long as all the tent sites are booked, which I think they are now, they will give you an RV site for the same price as a tent site. So you're getting more, and it's a bargain. And if you share that cost with someone, if you can find a buddy to share your site, it'll be probably the most affordable vacation you could ever imagine. So definitely worth checking it out.
Yeah, when you
And,
share the sites, it gets pretty cheap. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
Even when you don't, it's compared to like
a hotel compared to Liberty Forum.
Yeah, I mean anywhere. I mean, well, what it's how much is the entry fee to PorcFest currently?
It's $30 for the whole week. However, if you use coupon code radio, that's just like the word radio, you can get 20% off everything. So if you want to buy like a Black Flag or like a a T-shirt or also your ticket, you can use that coupon code that's radio to get 20% off. And again, it's porcfest.com, porcfest.com. And I just want to give everybody a warning too. Every year, this is really exciting when this happens, but every year we have a couple people who go to PorcFest and they just have such a great time that they decide they can't leave. And so I'm just giving everyone fair warning. Be prepared that you might want to stay in New Hampshire after PorcFest is over. And even if you can't like move up right away, I know that there are a number of opportunities to kind of tour around different cities in New Hampshire and have people kind of show you around and what's going on in each different region. And that's going to be happening before PorcFest, after PorcFest. There's even an offer to camp out on the Bardo farm between Bardo Fest and PorcFest for like 3 weeks. So if you want to do a little internship there, you can. So
Yeah, there's some cool folks. They'll teach you a lot of neat stuff.
yeah, absolutely. So just fair warning that you might not want to leave after you come to PorcFest.
Like Woodstock.
Yes, but better, but with freedom, with more freedom.
Yeah, Woodstock now is pretty commercial. Woodstock's kind of rough if you go to Woodstock.
Yeah.
So what are the dates of PorkFest?
Oh, good question. So it's June 20th through the 26th, and that's a Monday through a Sunday. So we want to take the whole week off of work, but if you can only come up for a couple of days, you can absolutely feel welcome to do so. You can, come and go as you please. And I'd say the weekend, the last weekend is probably going to be the biggest part of the week for folks who can't make it for the entire week. So if you can come check it out, Saturday is probably the biggest day, but the whole week there's just so much going on, so much fun.
Cool.
Very cool.
One thing that we were saying that PorkFest is great for is just meeting up with people. Where specifically in PorkFest should someone try to go to if they want to get to know some new people?
Ooh, good question. Well, anywhere actually. there's definitely going to be a lot of mixing and mingling going on in Agora Valley because that's pretty much where most of the commerce will be taking place during the day. There are parties every night, and there are kind of smaller campfires that people have at their tent sites. And so, there were a lot of people last year who kind of just made the rounds and went to every single campfire that they could see around the whole park. And you really get to know a lot of people that way. But definitely head to, if you're kind of new to the whole PorkFest scene, you can go to porkfest.com and check out the forums tab. And you can post an introduction on the forums and maybe meet some people to share rides with or share tent sites, get to know some folks before you come up.
And everybody listening should probably know that Darian, if you see Darian, Darian really likes it when you tackle him, pull his shirt over his head, and slap him on the belly until it turns bright red. He really loves when you give him a pink belly. So, just keep that in mind. If you see Darian at PorkFest, like hockey fight style, shirt over the head, knock him over, slap him in the belly over and over.
I'm
Darian
going to try
doesn't
that.
consent to this.
Darian doesn't consent to this. Well, it's part of the social contract. It's in there. You consented to it by being born in this geographical region.
It's in the fine print of that social contract.
You have to sign it. It's the law.
Actually, that's in the fine print of your PorkFest ticket. Anyone who attends PorkFest automatically consents to having a pink belly.
All right. So, one interesting thing that I'd also like to bring up when we're talking about PorkFest is a lot of the different stuff is driven by individuals. So if you're going to PorkFest and you decide that you think there's something that would be fun, there's the PorkFest group in Facebook once you got ticket holders or once you got your ticket, and you can join up with that. And there always seems to be people setting up day hikes or stuff like that, or get-togethers or things like that. So it's really kind of open-ended too. So if you decide there's something that you think would be fun, it's a great way to set it up.
Right, it's
Yes.
the true
Very
meaning.
decentralized.
There you go.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, the true sense of the word community. It's free individuals deciding that, when they get together, they can make something awesome happen. So they each contribute what they can and what they think will make things more awesome.
And also
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
that area, the White Mountains of New Hampshire, especially if you're on the East Coast, those are some kick butt mountains. So if you're used to mountains up and down the East Coast, I'd say the White Mountains kind of take it, in my opinion, as far as cool East Coast mountains. I'm sure so many people thinking about going to PorkFest are like, well, only if the mountains are really cool. That's obviously what they're looking for. And I will tell you that the White Mountains of New Hampshire are pretty sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you could probably backpack up the Appalachian Trail, but you better start now so you get there in time for PorkFest.
That would actually be pretty awesome. Appalachian Trail hike to PorkFest.
I actually looked into it, and if I was to catch, I think it was like Del Water Gap, I'd have to hoof it 350 miles or something like that. So I worked it out in days, and I was like, all right, I would need a food drop in the following states. I was like, well, okay, step 1, quit my job. I was like, all right, that's step 2, hit the trail and organize food drops with anybody who I still have some pull with. And yeah, it got kind of thin, as I was going up through Massachusetts and stuff. I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know. I have one friend there, but I highly doubt he's willing to drive 4 hours to give me some rice. So it'd be kind of tough. I'd probably do better. He'd just be like, do you just want me to give you a ride to New Hampshire? But anyway, yeah, you can hit the AT all the way up there if you want to.
It sounds like an event for next year. The PorkFest AT hike will have people pre-position food for anyone who's
That could be cool. I think of everybody in the chat room right now, Zach, because of his location, could kind of hit the whole trail. He could do like, the straight through hike, take a break for PorkFest, and then push on to Maine. And I think he should do that.
all right. I'm glad that you've figured out what Zach's
Volunteered
gonna do
him?
for
Yeah.
the next year.
Does it take like? I think it takes like a year and a half, or how long does it take?
I don't know. I
don't
think people
you can
usually
do the
take
whole
like
thing in less than a year.
You can
I've
do it
heard
in
of
less than a
people
year?
doing
Okay.
you got to plan it and everything too.
Yeah, you want to do your winter down south, I imagine. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do it up north.
Yeah, and I have to say, I just want to mention that there are actually convoys that are leaving from almost every state. There's actually a map, I think, somewhere on PorkFest.com that shows different state convoys that are all leaving at the same time to PorkFest. So if you want to meet up with people in your area who are going to be driving or meet up with them on the way, it's a good way to sort of start the party before you even get there, and maybe even rideshare.
That's a good point, yeah. And there's a lot of good convoys going on and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and someone in the chat, the Couch Activist, said that I should mention Alt Expo more, and I heard that Bile's going to be there. So if that's not a big enough draw for you, then
What?
there are
Darren's
also
gonna
other.
be there.
Then you've also got the
Actually,
Alt Expo.
I got suckered into doing a presentation last year too. I don't think anyone paid attention though.
What was your presentation on?
My arrest. I don't know why that was
Oh,
interesting.
I saw it. Yeah, I like that presentation.
Why?
Why? Because it was interesting.
How was it interesting? You already knew the story.
Yeah, but I like when people present. I like when people take their thoughts and put them into like a manageable under an hour type thing, and because it highlights what people think is important about their story. And it's like, bingo bango, this is what happened, and you go from there. You're
Yeah.
looking at me with great disdain. It's too bad that the people on the radio can't see the nasty looks that we get from Bile constantly here in the studio.
Oh, we've got someone calling.
He gives me the look my dog gives me when I, try to take him on really long hikes or stuff
Hold
like
on.
that.
We've got a caller. Let's see what this caller says.
Howdy, caller.
Hello. You are on Thinking Liberty.
Or not.
You still there, Stephanie?
I sure am.
Okay, we still got Stephanie. We got some other person who that says that they're on.
It's
And
supposed to be
Hi,
Tennyson.
caller.
we think we know who they are, but they are indisposed or not participating or it's not working or something like that.
See, Skype of suck.
Well, we'll just fill in for him. What would Tennyson say at this point?
He said he was in South America and that a dog sneezed or something. What was? I closed the window.
I don't know. I think he should start hiking now to get to PorkFest.
Yeah, that would be an even cooler hike.
The
I-
Pan American PorkFest.
He should do the anarchist illegal border crossing hike, and just how many borders can you cross, sans passport or anything else.
That sounds like an awesome competition. Like, screw whatever reality shows they've got out there now. I want to see how many borders can you jump without getting.
There's a show that was on the web. It was called Thumbs Up. And this guy, he basically goes around hitchhiking and jumping freight cars and stuff like that. And he crosses the Mexican border over and over and tries to get into Canada and does all kinds of exciting things like that. And it's actually a pretty good show. So the border crossing reality show is actually kind of fun.
Cool. So we're
That sounds awesome. I was going to say I want to see video of that.
Oh, it's pretty intense. There's also a lot of like, I don't know. It's a tough lifestyle. Let's put it that way. Riding around in freight cars all the time and being very, very cold.
All right. So I don't think our call with Tennyson is working. So yeah, I will be presenting something at Alt Expo. Not sure what. Probably just leading a discussion on.
Darian, would you like to present your rebuttal? I most certainly would. Zip.
Well, all right then. I'm not sure what I was rebutting there, but
Well,
it's
way to
it's
bring
a
us
Simpsons
back on.
joke. What was that?
A way to bring us back on track. I was going to mention the Alt Expo because that's something that interests a lot of people. It happens every year, and it's sort of some stuff that I don't know falls under this umbrella. Maybe kind of sustainability, alternatives to current culture. There's going to be Alliance of the Libertarian Left represented there. I know there's a session on like geocaching, all kinds of stuff going on there, and they should have their own schedule kind of posted up soon. But they definitely offer a lot of cool alternative events, and of course, Darian's going to be talking too. So that's great.
Do you know if they're going to have that sweet electric car like they had last year?
That was pretty cool.
I think it was so popular that I would doubt that they wouldn't bring it back.
You know what else? If you want to, on the subject of learning things, this is going to sound like a shameless plug for Fix Brewing, but it's something worth mentioning because it's the way a lot of stuff works. If you talk to Zach Fix, there's like, he's running some sort of donation program or something like that where you can get like a brewing, you can get a brewing kit, and you can get like a brewing talk about how to brew stuff and things like that. And
What kind of stuff?
alcohol. But it's interesting because so much stuff at PorkFest works like that. So you've got Fix Brewing, you got Zach who works there, and if you talk to him, you can cut a deal for some sort of donation or something like that to learn about how things work. And he's actually got a price structure and stuff like that. But pretty much any of the vendors there, if you've got people selling crafts, stuff like that, I'd say 9 times out of 10 they would totally be willing to show you how to do whatever they're doing for a price. So you could negotiate a price and learn a new skill, the vast majority of the time. So assuming you're an outgoing person and you're willing to negotiate and barter, there's a lot that you can just learn that way as well.
Yeah, that's very cool that you mentioned Fix Brewing. I definitely wanted to give a shout out to them. And there are just so many there's so many crafty people who have this kind of do-it-yourself spirit at PorkFest, and everybody's kind of willing to share. I think a lot of people are generous with their mind fruit, shall we say?
Mind fruit.
Nice.
I'm seeing a call on my screen from Tennyson.
You're getting a call now?
He's calling
Yeah.
you?
This is very exciting. He's calling
us.
us too. All right, let's see if we can hear him this time. All right, can you hear us, Tennyson? Nope.
Oh, wait for it.
Oh, well.
All right. Well, hopefully
Bummer,
we'll
Tennyson.
get Tennyson on a little bit later.
Say hi to wherever you are for us.
I tried to add him to the conference and it just didn't do anything, so I hung up on him.
All right.
Oh, poor Tennyson.
So, Stephanie, what else do you want to tell us about PorkFest while you're on the line?
What else do I want to tell you? Well, I'm very excited about PorkFest, and I would like to see everyone who's listening to the show there and get a chance to meet them and talk about all kinds of cool philosophy and ideas. And I hope to see everybody up in New Hampshire as soon as possible. And one last thing I'll leave you with, I guess, is if you want to find out more or if you want to buy your ticket, if you're sold already, go to porcfest.com and check out the schedule, check out the blog, all kinds of cool content there. And you can buy your ticket there, and then you can go to Rogers Campground and go grab a tent site.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Do you want to head into a break and take
I
it from there?
believe we'll do that. Thank you very much, Stephanie, for being on. Again, it's Porcupine Freedom Festival this summer. The dates are...
June 20th through the 26th.
All right, nice. And you can check that out at porcfest.com. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool people there, so check it out. So thank you for listening. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to have some more news, some science news, some freedom news.
We'll talk about the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, and trails. It's going to be a good time, so stick around for some happy trails. We're back on thinkingliberty.net, the awesomest show that you're listening to. So, we've managed to get Tennyson on the line over the break, and Stephanie is still on, so maybe she'll add some talkings.
Color commentary. Add some talkings.
Add some talkings.
All right, cool. So we've got two guests on. We've got Tennyson. Tennyson, do us a favor. How close do you want to pinpoint your geographic location for the listeners? So what
right.
level of specificity are you going to give?
All right, add the words South to the words America.
Oh, okay.
We just need to contact Apple. They'll tell us where he's at.
All right, well, you can contact Google. They know even better where I am.
So on the big compass rose, we should have South lit up right now. Tennyson is
Yes.
south of us.
Yes.
And what's
So-
the weather
so
like
what-
in South America?
Hot.
It was pretty
hot.
hot up here recently,
It's
too.
hot.
Well, how
every-
hot is hot?
It's in the 80s.
Got up to 85 here, so
It was that one.
No, but over the weekend it was pretty good. I was looking at the weather on my iPhone, which is something nice
as
I could
opposed to
do.
just going outside and experiencing it.
No, I mean weather for New York.
Tennyson,
okay.
hey Tennyson, does your iPhone pick up that there's like a bubble 5 feet around you that's like at least a few degrees hotter just because you're in the middle of it?
Sometimes it does. It's surprising.
You have to pinpoint your location to Tennyson.
Does
There's an app for that.
is it after that? All right. So South America, huh? And what is your? I sound like a customs agent. What's your purpose in South America?
Myself, I guess. I don't know. What does the people do down here?
Coke.
There's probably some of that too, but more contact than anything else.
All right, cool.
So let's see. Something I wanted to ask Bile. Bile, how's work?
Worky.
It's very worky. Okay. Stephanie, how about you?
I am working a lot on PorkFest
Yeah,
for free.
yeah. Everybody's doing all this volunteer work. I don't even know why or how they're doing it all, but they're probably trying to make the absolute best PorkFest ever. So
I consider my Thinking Liberty production to be my Liberty time donations.
okay, all right. I figured you would consider it to be more of like a mini vacation after work.
No, sorry, I'm eating a cookie.
See,
he's
No,
not
having-
eating cookies. This guy is a
having
slacker.
Bosco and
So much
and
work I
Darian
gotta
over is the place is a mess afterwards. I got to clean up.
He's got to
I gotta
hose
do-
it down.
I've got to do post production. Put
the
up
whole
the show.
studio's tile. We just spray it down when we're done to get the funk out.
we got to put down plastic next time. That's how it's done.
It gets expensive. It's hard to reuse the plastic because it tears because they're just like all over the place. And then, I mean, I guess I could get like heavy tarps, but man, those things are expensive, and we just don't get enough donations to cover that.
Speaking of donations, it's the greatest nation in the world, and you should donate some money to Thinking Liberty. And if you want, you should probably buy some of the Zach Fix's Brewing beers and ales.
Speaking of which, our donations have helped get us above over 400 followers or whatever the hell they're called on Facebook. So it's
Likers.
actually
Okay.
likers, yeah, whatever.
Now, are you counting the amount of cashish we've got in Bitcoin? And do we think that's going to pop? Are we in for the long haul with that?
We've got 84.84 bitcoins. I don't know how that came about, but
good.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're the Bitcoin expert. Should I cash out?
I don't know. I haven't been following lately. You can check out the Mount Gox exchange if you're really.
That's a lot of
concerned.
effort. You wanted the Bitcoin.
It's got some
your
nice graphs
responsibility.
and stuff.
Nice
I haven't been trolling that forum in a while. I usually hang out in the tech section there, and it's kind of interesting.
You troll that forum too.
Yes,
You are a
actively.
constant troll, Ryan. Why is that?
I just go in there and I'm like, well, it's not real money if it's not backed by gold. And then I sign up a new username and say the same thing in a couple weeks.
You're a troll on the Bitcoin thing. You're a troll on Facebook. I mean, how do you manage in class?
I troll. I troll a lot.
So don't be a bad student in his class, kids. Just in case.
You will get trolled.
Teaching is trolling. Trolls make the difference. So, what are bitcoins? I'm sure not everyone listening.
What
is
are
familiar.
bitcoins? All right. So the idea of a bitcoin is it's a what's a what?
It's a clipping, when you clip a piece of a coin off, and then you can use it as
Then you got a bit of a coin. You
2
know,
bits.
it's a digital currency. So basically, the way it works through cryptography is you have this digital currency, and you can exchange what is essentially a number that can be linked to a certain transfer of bitcoins. And the value of bitcoins is determined by what the market will bear for bitcoins. So, like many other currencies, it goes up and it goes down. What's it backed by? It's backed by your good faith in the cryptography behind Bitcoin is what it's backed by. So, what's the name of that car that you love so much?
What, Tesla?
Tesla. Yes, it's a Tesla currency. That's what I'm trying to say. No, fiat.
Okay.
And the bitcoins
nothing-
can never go beyond a certain level of inflation, right? Because there's like a cap at how many can actually be created.
Yeah,
Is
so
that
there's
right?
only so many bitcoins that are going to be produced, and it's kind of like if you ever done the thought experiment. All right, you walk half the distance to the wall, and then half the distance. You approach this number asymptotically because the difficulty in manufacturing bitcoins goes up as there's more computers on the network, and it adjusts the difficulty to manufacture the Bitcoin such that you never get past a certain amount of Bitcoins, and you approach that slowly. So, I mean, it's basically hard-coded that you don't get past a certain amount, but your approach is dictated by the difficulty factor.
Now,
So
what happens? What happens if you lose your purse?
you are SOL.
Right, but does that mean like those coins are just gone?
Yeah, they're out of the market. The rest of the coins go up in value, though. I mean, in a perfect system. That's
Right. Well, I mean, over time they would find a higher value. So it'd be interesting if you wrote a virus that went and like
Just 8 coins.
8 coins, like deleted people's coins and be like, Psh, I don't know, I'm the only guy that was immune to it, and I seem to have the only 100 coins left.
I have 100
Then again,
coins.
then no one would give a shit anymore.
It's worth 1 million.
No one
No,
would care.
That's true. It's value going
You'd
up.
have to do it slowly, like just eat away.
The cool thing about Bitcoin is you can, I mean, it's tradable for cash, and there's a lot of people who do. I wouldn't say huge. You're not going to buy a house in Bitcoins yet, but there's large scale transactions that occur.
I don't
with
know. There was
Bitcoins.
that house that was for sale for $1 in Chicago.
Okay, all right. You could buy a
Chicago?
warehouse in Detroit.
I thought that was Detroit. Yeah.
Or maybe
Yeah, it's more
Detroit.
likely Detroit.
One of those
So,
places.
Yeah, it's probably Detroit. But I
Sears
can buy an
the
Tower, I
entire-
think it was
fact checker.
called.
Yeah, I can buy an entire house there, like a mansion, multiple room things for like $15K, and that's expensive.
We should buy one and set up our compound there.
Or we could just set up another compound.
The other, yeah, because we're in the compound currently.
Yeah, this
Yes.
is compound 3.0 if we're gonna make it.
We'll just have a giant radio aerial coming out of the.
There you go.
It can only add value to the properties around it.
There you
That's
go.
how my house looks now with the random radio antennas I have like hanging off the roof and pushed out the attic, and it's pretty bootleg.
How's that going?
I haven't had time to fool around with it. I had spring break recently, and I was very, 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 very busy, so I haven't had time to really sit down with my radio and futz around with it much. It's fun
Tell
though.
Miss Griffin to handle it.
What was that?
Tell Miss Griffin to do it.
All right. So, speaking of house values, we saw this interesting article that Biles shared with us. I believe it's from Mish's Economic Trends. It was about how some homes that are foreclosed on in Florida. There's I believe a Florida state law, or maybe it's a local law, that the tenant cannot take over the water utility account.
Yeah, you can't pay it.
They cannot pay for water if the landlord defaults or if the landlord is foreclosed upon. So the landlord's going to stop paying water, but then the tenant who wants to have water delivered to their house is forbidden from paying the water company
And
to
it's-
deliver water to their
Right,
house.
but and to understand, like, to put why that is in context, the idea is that the law just says that someone who has had their water turned off in like an apartment building, that the tenant can't turn it back on. Only the owner can. So it's intended for, like, if you're supposed to be kicked out of an apartment complex for not paying your bills or whatever, and then it gets turned off, only the landlord can then turn it back on. So the landlord basically stops all payment because he defaults, and then no one can turn it back on because there's no owner anymore.
I love it in the article too. It talks about this problem, how people are living without water, and it's like, the commission is getting together to change those rules probably sometime next month. It's like, all right, so we're in the first world and people don't have indoor running water. Who can we thank for that? The government.
Hey, those bureaucrats need to rest. Come on, they don't want to work them too hard.
It's very, very tiring.
Well, it's probably
Bad
not.
guy, Derry. You're always blaming the government for things. No, the government is.
Maybe it's the water's fault, you know?
Well, no,
if the
it's-
water wasn't so
They-
expensive.
Probably the commission isn't set up to meet more than once a month, so they can't have an emergency meeting even if they wanted to. And that they're it's so bureaucratic that they can't actually allocate time or money to do it.
We cannot deliver you running water.
I was actually looking into water in my area because I was wondering. I was like, if I wanted to shut the water off to my house, because I actually do a lot, like including all my clothes washing with rainwater now, and it's like it's a big pain in the butt in Trenton if you want to turn off the water to your house. If you just want to be like, no, I don't want to pay this. I want to turn it off and no longer have the water come in that I have to pay for, or pay for like the sewage type thing. Like, you will catch a heap load of crap for that.
Yeah, sewage certainly not. There's there's probably no way to get around that. Water you can probably get around some way.
I mean, the sewage isn't going to work without water, so these homes in Florida, they're not able to flush toilets or anything like that unless they.
Oh,
So
they
you
carry the
you
water
literally
in
will
to do
catch a
it.
heap load of crap.
Don't.
Good times.
Yes.
But anyway, I suppose the
That was terrible.
I suppose the solution to this problem. Well, there's two ways you could approach this problem. One, you could fix the stupid bureaucratic nonsense, or two, you could take my route and you could go down and show people how to build rain barrels and compost human waste, and be like, "Congratulations, you now live off the grid in a city."
Yeah, I don't think that would go over well if you're like on the 10th floor of some apartment complex.
Well, you just install a chute, and you have somebody take
put it
care
on
of
the roof. And...
Actually, this is gonna, once again, the show is gonna get disgusting. They actually, there was a group of people who looked into humanure for people who live in apartments. They came up with a system
Oh, God.
whereby, yeah, hold on, it gets better. They came up with a system whereby,
I hope it involves the laundry chute.
no, it doesn't. People would just leave out PVC buckets with lids on them, right? So you'd leave out, just the way like recycling or anything else, you'd leave out like 2 buckets a week or whatever it happened to be. And they had a group that would come and collect them, and they had a compost heap like down the street in like an empty lot. And it like worked well, as long as you can keep a supply of sawdust or like absorbent material that's not too terribly dry. There's really no odor, and like even the giant compost heap like really didn't smell like a heck of a lot, unless they were adding stuff. Like, no worse than other empty lots that you have in random cities. So it's kind of impressive, like, to see this story about how well it went, and then, of course, some like health inspector somewhere is like, "Oh my God, human feces, we're all gonna die."
They got shit in a box.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're like,
You
"This
can't say
needs to
that
be
on
shut
the
down."
air.
My favorite thing was the implementation in this particular story. Is this dude's just like, "Yeah, we'll do this service. We'll see if we can sell it to like an apartment complex worth of people." And he found an apartment complex worth of hippies that were like, "Hell yeah!" And they're like, "All right, good."
I will totally shit in a bucket for science.
So where was this done?
I want to say it was on the West Coast somewhere, probably South Bay region would be my guess.
I want to say it was on the West Coast.
I mean, it was alongside another article I read about a guy who stole a giant garbage bin from a CVS and used that to do his own humanure composting on the rooftop of his apartment complex.
Interesting.
Wow, the people you
Interesting.
hang out with.
I don't hang out with these people. I meet these people on the internet.
No, he would hang out with them though.
I would if I knew them. Yeah.
So where were you reading about this? Do you remember the site?
No, I could probably find it for you though.
Okay, you could probably
I
just
could put it on
Google this.
I could put it on the Thinking Liberty page.
Do some creative Googling. Make sure moderate safe search is turned on. And
I'm telling you, it's not. It's a great system. I
Speaking
stand
of
by it.
DIY, did you get to see that TED talk about the guy who's doing the open source farm utilities and stuff?
is this one
the
with
guy
the
who's putting it on a
CDs
CD?
that had like all the blueprints for every farm implement or something? Like
Well, yeah, that's the plan. So it was on TED, was it .com, right? They this guy was talking about how he had a PhD in like cold fusion or something. He's like
PhD in cold fusion.
PhD in awesome.
or something like that, and he's
Sounds like
like
something out of Futurama.
yeah, he's like that was obviously completely useless. So I went and became a farmer. And they show these pictures of him like farming, and he's got this big beard and everything. He's like, yeah, that didn't turn out real well because I bought this tractor. I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't fix it myself, so I had to pay someone to fix it, and then it broke again, and I went broke. It's like, so then I had this great idea after seeing open hardware based stuff. Why don't I make open hardware versions of farm equipment for third world?
Is that the factory farm guy?
Maybe I don't remember all the.
All right, but yeah.
Yeah, so he went and used 3D modeling software to put together blueprints for like a tractor and a brick compressor, and there's a couple other things. They have like 100 devices or 200 devices planned, but they've only actually designed like 20 or something. But more and more people are adding on to this website or whatever. It's like a wiki, and they just post the 3D stuff.
Yeah,
and,
I've seen it. Yeah, it's
so
sweet.
it's really nice. And yeah, I mean, there's really no reason why this hasn't been done before. I mean, in fact, I grew up in sort of a farming area, and guys sort of did this already. You would take your old tractor that someone else had and just pimp it out with your own. You had an oxysaline welding
With
set up.
hydraulic shocks and
Oh yeah,
fuzzy
they would be
dice
bouncing up and down, and they got the stereo in the back, and but
You
yeah,
know what-
I mean, you had lots of custom stuff.
You know what breaks my heart about... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Oh, I was wondering if you guys have heard of Broken Sidewalk Farm.
No.
No, what's that?
Oh, that's a
It's
new one.
it's this farm in Texas. This guy is actually trying to build this like open source based farm that essentially senses when all the vegetables need water and stuff like that or nutrients, and like runs itself and creates a bunch of food that he can then like give away for free, and it's all based on like open source technology. Kind of relates to what you were talking about before.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Neat stuff. Yeah, it's farming is interesting, and it's especially the more you read about like world hunger and stuff like that. It's definitely, I think, a big part of our future. What breaks my heart is when I talk to people who are farmers on a large scale. So usually, I mean, in New Jersey, there's farm stands all around where I work, and you talk to those people, and they grow vegetables and they grow flowers and things like that, and anything that'll sell, and canned preserves and things like that. And then oftentimes they're part of a larger farming family, and the farming family will have massive acreage, and they'll grow corn one year, soybeans the next year. And so when I talk to those people, I'm like, yeah, so how's it profitable? Like, how do you make money growing corn and soybeans? They're like, it's not.
Yeah,
it's government subsidies.
yeah.
Like, that's how you make your money when you grow corn and soybeans.
Either directly or indirectly. I know where I grew up, it's like the most rural part of New Jersey, and there's still a lot of farmers there. And part of so property taxes have gone up so high in New Jersey that when you've got all this acreage and it's used for commercial farm, I think it's still less than normal commercial, but it's more, I suspect, than, obviously if you've got hundreds of acres, it's still going to end up to be more than some guy with 3 or 5 acres. And so what they do is the state passes these farm preservation laws, which make it so that these farmers don't have to actually pay property taxes for, I think, like any of the farmed land, which is most of it. And but it's really a trick to have these farmers. These guys are probably in their 60s or 50s, 60s, 70s, and they've got no one to take the farm after them, and they don't have the manpower, they don't have the ability to continue farming, and they end up not being able to actually farm the land anymore, and so they'll cut back. And the state says, oh, well, it's not farmland. You owe us back taxes on all the land. And then they're unable to do anything. They can't pay for it. So they sell the farm or basically give the farm over to the state. The state turns around, gives it to its local, construction buddies, who then turn it into a bunch of, split up the land, turn it into a bunch of homes. And
that's how you preserve farmland.
right.
Who would think a state program that offers you something is actually a trap?
Yeah, and then the other
There's
side
a
of it,
prop.
the other side of it is that guys who are, either wealthier or in the know, they suddenly become tree farmers in South Jersey. Like, and they'll cut down like 4 trees a year, claim that the land is farmed, and then they get really cheap deer hunting property.
That's the way to do it.
Good to know.
It's interesting though that you think of like what's the one thing that people can't live without? All right, well, clean water, which already the government's taking steps to mess up for people. But
you
food,
don't need
like,
clean water. You just need a clean drinking thing. Like years ago, they didn't have clean water, but they drank lots of beer.
All right, so clean fluid with enough water in it to hydrate you.
Also,
And,
water purification's come a long way.
And
I'm just saying.
Yeah, and
Bosco's all about pissing in a bucket and then drinking it later.
Drink it again. This weekend I was using iodine to purify water, and I'm like, really? I can purify this much water for like this cheap? And yeah, it's kind of cheap.
Did you?
And it
purify
tastes
your own-
really gross.
Actually, it doesn't. It didn't taste that terrible. I was
because
amazed.
you didn't
Really?
use enough.
I didn't use
It
enough.
tastes that terrible.
Do it till it tastes
terrible.
awful. I followed the temperature chart. I added as much as I was supposed to. So
Yeah, but that's for water, not for pee.
it's for pee. I wasn't peeing in a bucket. Anyway, continue,
Yeah.
Darian.
Yeah,
You were
well,
you were
I
making
mean,
a point.
I was making a point that clean
Very
water
dull
and
point.
food, like that, and warmth. Those are like really the only things that people actually need. Yet somehow growing food is not profitable for these people.
Fact: beer is better for hydration than beer. Said by Zach. Yes, beer is better for hydration than beer.
Water. You're supposed to at least allow.
No. I just want to make him sound like a total idiot because he can't defend himself. then we'll wait for him to call in, and we'll just keep hitting the hang up button.
No, you're wrong.
Isn't that what? So we're taking after like Rush Limbaugh or one of those guys?
Yes.
This is talk radio. I'm always right. You're wrong.
Wasn't that what Ian Freeman said that back when he first started, they told you never admit you're wrong?
Oh yeah. When you're on talk radio, he's given some. He's another one that I think I've seen at Porkfest talking, and he's given some cool talks.
Yeah, he's been in radio for a long time, so he talks a lot about his experiences there and how it's been useful. And I haven't listened in a long time. I've been too busy, but they, from what I understand, they've got over 100 or about 100 affiliates now. So that's huge. I think they've like doubled in just like a year and a half or something.
Yep, that's true. And sometimes I'm on Free Talk Live on the Sunday show in particular. That's definitely a smaller show, but during the week they do have like 100 affiliates, which is really cool. I don't know any other show that's as, I guess, liberty oriented that has that big of an audience.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
Someday we will.
Someday we'll
Yes.
do much better. Than
Ian, when we first started and got on LRN.FM, Ian like almost begged us to be on at 10 to 12 or so, but it's just not feasible.
That would be brutal. I'd be getting home at 2.
Yeah, it's
You should just move. We should all just move into the compound. Maybe get a bigger compound out in Detroit so we can have
Just
some
move to New
rooms.
Hampshire and just go to Porkfest and stay there.
Yeah,
for me.
I'm all for that.
All right. So what else are we talking about today?
What else are we talking about?
We're
Well,
going to talk about science news, right?
science.
Science.
Do you have any science you want to talk about?
I have lots of science to talk about. but-
Okay, let's skip that. And I'm just kidding. what science stuff do you have, Tennyson?
All right, stuff from Kurzweil because they always put updates out. So of course, we mentioned this earlier when we were doing our email thing. The idea that Elon Musk wants to, or is confident that he'll be able to put a man on Mars by 2020.
Just one.
Just one. That's really all you need. But
Does he have to be alive? Because I'm pretty sure that we could just shoot a rocket at Mars with a dead body on it and hit it.
yeah, I think so too. But it's going to be alive, and it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to be privately done with, very moderate government funding. So.
That was I saw that SpaceX announcement, and it's like they're definitely pretty intense. I mean, a while ago they came out and they said, we've got some big announcement. You got to pay attention. Something cool is going to happen. They introduced the new rocket, which kind of made me explore their site a little bit more. And then they have this press release about going to Mars, and they're like, they said short term 10. What was their short term? What was their long term? Because they gave
I don't
both.
even know. I have to go to the website.
But
But,
short term might have been 10 years, long term was like 20 years. But I'm like,
Yeah.
that's very aggressive. Like that's pretty
Exactly. They see a really bright future ahead for what's going to be possible technologically. So
Especially for a private company to pick up the torch and run with it.
Exactly. I mean, this has been unprecedented. Usually, it's the domain of governments to have anything to do with space stations, whether they're satellite lifts or their explorations or anything else like that. So it's going to be an all right type of thing to see them do this. I mean, they're still getting money from governments, though, which is my issue with them. But I don't think.
Yeah, I see NASA's paying them. Yeah.
Yeah, NASA just paid them like $75 million, and they're like, I mean, I wish NASA were abolished. I wish the rest of the government were abolished too. But I think NASA, they brought me a lot of really cool stuff over the years. So I'm like,
Yeah, there's a good Penn and Teller bullshit about NASA, and basically it ends up in their conclusion is, I really, really like NASA. I always like NASA. I'm still obsessed with NASA, but it's gotta go. It should have never existed, and it's gotta go. Like, every nerd has a thing for NASA, but they screw up a lot, and, you know, there's a lot of just pomp and circumstance there that needs to go away. You know, it needs to be brought into the private sector and let its natural evolution occur.
Well, that's
absolutely true. So, but this is one of the problems of being away from the studios, that I don't get any of the human interaction. So I can't see Darian interjecting, moving his body to interject.
Well, do you have video?
Video? Yeah, I do, but I'm not going to use it.
Oh, okay. Because we've got video. I hooked up a camera now.
Oh, you hooked the camera? All right. Next time.
Oh, hold on. I'm putting my pants back on.
But what I'm saying is that somebody made an argument about NASA, which is the same broken window argument, the Basquiat argument, which said that had NASA not existed, we don't know what may have happened if the money that went into it and the opportunities that NASA actually took been given to people who were interested in making a profit and doing it in economic term. So imagining that NASA never existed, NACA never existed prior to NASA, some other organization would have to be used in order to lift satellites and everything else into space.
Or organizations, plural.
Right. Yeah, and so probably some private organization that needed to get satellites in there for communications or whatever it was, would have had to figure out ideas about propulsion and had to do it economically. And doing that would have actually created a space industry from the beginning. And from that point, things may have advanced to such a point that we already have colonies on the moon and on planets and asteroids by now, had NASA simply never existed and completely took out all possible competition.
Well, the parallel is drawn with personal computers, right? I mean, look at where computers were in the 60s versus now, and compare that to where space travel was in the 60s versus now.
I think, though, you can't be too ambitious about these arguments because, one, it's pure speculation, and two,
Right.
I think there's counter arguments. I mean, yes, likely there would have been interest for satellites, but it could have also materialized as low Earth orbit type stuff, or it could have been weather balloons. That might have been cheaper, more economic. With computers, computers may have evolved slower, at least at the beginning, because people didn't necessarily need to compute how to blow people up. So the usages of these things weren't isolated, or the ability of some of these technologies to evolve were not solely isolated by the government's usage of them, but they were spurred on by the government usage of them. So so it's hard to say confidently that these technologies would have been better off. I mean, maybe they would have, or their evolution would have been different, or the pace would have been much different. But like computers, I haven't seen a lot of evidence that in the private sector there was a lot of computing going on.
See, but when people make those like very practical arguments, that's when you slam them with the deontological hammer. And you're like, bam! It's unethical. Argument over.
I mean, it is hard to argue these counterfactuals, but if there was no government doing these things, then other things would be a lot different. There would be a lot more money in the private sector, and they would.
That's true too.
Now, I think let's say the state had been abolished in like the year 1900 or so, people's priorities would have been very, very different compared to what they are today or what they were. In the
where
year
would
1900.
people have invented mustard gas?
Exactly.
That
All these
mustard
other
is
things
so
would have come
delicious.
around. Yeah.
Who wouldn't want it in gas form?
Yes, all these things probably wouldn't have come around the same way that we expected them to. But I think that had the state not existed, there wouldn't have been a suppression of both science and engineering at the same time. And those two would have been feeding on one another faster and faster and faster as time went on in the free market. And yeah, I don't see any, possible way that it wouldn't have been more advanced than what it is right now.
So let's
And let's not forget also that how the religion has historically oppressed science and technology as well.
It's
I mean,
also-
it's still kind of going on. Now they just kind of collude with the state to get the
Right.
state to ban certain things like stem cell research and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so there's always been that support between the two of them. The cultural power in terms of the church and the cultural power, or the state power in terms of the state. So the two of them will prop each other up in a mutually reinforcing interlocking system, as Rod Geek say. Rod Geek is Roderick and Charles.
Darian's spray painting "No Gods, No Masters" on the wall right now.
Yeah, this is why Kyle has to spend so much time cleaning up.
Freddie, no
it's a
gods,
new
no
place.
masters, just man.
Well, I mean, the thing with NASA, of course, it's a state prestige thing, and I mean, if the state's going to spend a lot of money looking good, I guess it's better they spend it on spaceships than on blowing up people. But preferably, they would do neither.
One of my
More-
favorite
more-
interviews on
Right.
NPR was this guy was talking about animal testing, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't really think animal testing needs
What
to be
kind of scores do animals get on tests?
poor." He's like, I don't think animal testing needs to be used to test a lot of these products. He's like, look at the technology we have. I mean, look at the space race. And I was thinking to myself, okay, you got a fair argument there, but if you're going to bring up animal testing and the space race in the same breath, you're just setting yourself up for a nasty rebuttal there, because there's a lot of dead space monkeys out there. So, moving on.
Space dogs, too.
Space
Oh,
dogs, yep.
Laika the Space Dog. You should read that very, very sad graphic novel that First Second put out, all about Laika the Space Dog.
Sad
What is
stuff.
it called? The book is just
Laika.
called Laika the Space Dog, and who's
yeah,
it by?
Laika, Laika the Space Dog. I think that's the title. If you look it up, just look up anything that First Second has done, you'll find it.
If First Second is what it's
First Second, it's a publishing company, and they do this kind of stuff.
called? Okay, then. So that's
So
something.
it's :01. You would see First Second, the First Second. All right, more science news.
More science
Speculation.
news.
Machines will achieve human-level intelligence in the 2028 to 2150 range. There's a poll. Lots of scientists and other people got together. They polled them. What do you think will have AGI or something like that?
I
And
thought
those are
last
the range-
week that happened.
No.
Oh, did you hear that? What was it? Amazon went on record and said that the S3 outage that they had
Yeah,
was
right.
not a result of Cyber9.
Oh, good.
They said it was not caused by Skynet.
That's good to
All right.
know. So what's
But
the date
they-
for Skynet there?
But they may have caused the whole PlayStation outage.
Oh,
Skynet.
That's my bet.
Good to
Skynet
know.
caused PlayStation outage.
Well, it's got to eliminate the competition first.
That's true.
so what's our Skynet date again there, Tennyson?
Well, now it's changed because that future has been averted.
Oh, okay. But the one you're currently reading, the article, when do we get machines
mean
achieving human
AGI?
intelligence? Yes.
AGI
Right,
is somewhere
Skynet.
between 2028 and 2150.
So, well, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger is just a governor, so he's gonna have to become president for machines to take over.
Machines are gonna have to
are
amend the
machines going
Constitution.
the electoral route to take over the world? Is that how they're doing it now?
It might be. I mean, most the people who were polled, are leaning towards the somewhere between 2025 and 2050. And I tend to agree with that, just because I would like that. That's a wishful thinking agreement. That's
That's a good reason. My
Not because
technical
I have any
analysis of this
factual
problem
knowledge.
is yes, because I want it.
Exactly. And lots of things have been achieved just because of that. Now, I really want it to happen, therefore I'm going to work toward it. Or
Is this
fund
like the
some
power of
work.
positive thinking?
Yes.
You have
It's the
cancer
law-
because
He
you're
has-
negative?
He's
It's the law of
he's got
averages
faith.
and all that, law of attraction kind of thing. So, yes, it's going to happen.
Flip a coin. All right.
So we have a comment in the chat room: Skynet equals Predator drones over the U.S.
No,
No.
Predator drones are not sufficiently built for nukes. I don't think. That was the whole issue with Skynet. After 2 days, it was like, no, humans suck. Boom. It was sort of like Battlestar Galactica, that kind of thing, where the Cylons nuked like 12 planets, all populated areas, and over 13 planets all at the same time. Just nuked it all.
That was a pretty good plan, right?
Yeah, it worked well. It worked well for Skynet. It seems like nuking whole planets is
It's a good way to start a science fiction novel. That's what it seems like.
Yeah. Or a television show.
Yes, true.
So
All right,
back to these Predator drones. What's the deal with the Predator drones over the U.S.?
Uh,
I
It's
forget
gonna
exactly
happen.
what the story
Last
was.
time I read anything, I think there were talks of some of the larger police departments getting Predator drones to do aerial FLIR checks. Like
Okay.
the
It makes sense. It's the
infrared,
beginning.
like,
They're gonna start
spying
doing
on
clear
people.
checks, and
Yeah.
they're gonna start doing something else.
Also, I think there were plans on using them on the borders to catch the Mexicans coming in the border.
Yeah, that's part of one of the Republicans had always started talking about this during election time and saying, like, we need to start sending Predator drones out across the border to actually search for these things, so we don't have to create a real fence. We can create a virtual fence.
We got to totally militarize the border because, we got to make sure that we can secure all those jobs for us because we all
We don't
want to
need
do it.
any more your garden work and your landscaping and your oranges and things like that.
Yeah, when people make money, they never spend it in a marketplace that gives
Yes.
other people jobs or anything
No.
like that.
God forbid you want people that work very hard are willing to do things that you don't necessarily want to do and will grow the economy. That'd be crazy.
Well,
when people give other people money, it's never for a reason because they got something they thought was actually worth something. No, it's because they were just cheated out of it. So every Mexican is cheating you. Therefore,
even if they hoard the money, that's just gonna reduce some of the damage that Bernanke's doing. So maybe it'll be good.
That's how you reduce the money supply.
thank you for bringing back
Cheapskates.
the priorities there. So no one's going to talk about this. We're going to see whether it's brought up during the debates from GOP and the DNC debates that are coming up.
I mean, the thing is, when there's always this mentality that there's a military solution, there's a high technology solution, the way to be more secure is to have more government eyes watching and more government weapons with, lighter triggers. It's what you get is more tyranny, and that's all you get. The people who are oppressing Americans aren't just people who are looking for work. They're people who are looking to control others. And certainly there are criminal elements in every sector of society. But the biggest criminal element out there is the government. And it's certainly the most dangerous. They want to fly Predator drones over American cities. I mean, just the name.
It was a
It's
good movie.
Predator.
It was a good movie.
It's a freaking Predator.
It was a good movie, though. Even the second
New
one.
York.
All right, so Arnold Schwarzenegger, Skynet's candidate for U.S. everything, is the one who took out the Predator. So what we need to do is have Skynet versus the Predator, and then we will have a balance of powers finally that the Constitution calls for.
Maybe.
It's going to be a balance of terror.
Well, what
Balance.
about, can we add, aliens in there, too? So Skynet or Terminators versus RoboCop versus
Well, yeah,
aliens versus Predator?
Right, the aliens
That sounds
who are
like
trying
a
to come over
badass
the
movie.
border.
Versus Rush Holt, right? We're going to toss him there, too, right? He's
Sure, he'll last,
He's a rocket scientist.
a rocket scientist, yeah.
I
Rush
doubt...
Holt.
I doubt very much that this topic will come up. Like, the whole border thing will come up almost at all
Dead
during
last.
the debates.
No, I mean, you always need a distraction, so they might just start hyping it up again in the news cycle, and then you'll have to talk about it during the
It's
debate.
going to be hard when, Greece recollapses or Spain or Italy collapses, the euro goes down, interest rates are increasing, inflation or price inflation of gasoline and
Wow, you're overestimating the people here.
Well,
no,
I mean,
I-
whenever
you
there's an
definitely
economic
are.
downturn, that's when scapegoating gets
Exactly.
higher. Actually, when
It's just
people
one
studied
more distraction.
when people studied anti-Semitism in Europe, It was actually it would come in waves whenever the economy got worse.
Well, that's because the Jews were the ones causing it, so it made perfect sense.
well, the
And this-
Mexicans are causing my job to not
This
be
by the
there.
way, for those of you who listen to our show a lot, is the point where, you know, Darian segues into some minute Russian history details that only he knows, which he then uses to segue into hatred of Nazis, and then we get back to the Nazi topic. Which is always how it goes.
All right,
All right,
so we need
let's just continue with
predators
the
to take
science
out
news
Nazis. That's what we've
Right.
concluded today.
All right. Arnold Schwarzenegger to take out predators and Nazis, continuing even though he's the son of a Nazi. More science news.
There we go.
Stable, self-renewing neural stem cells created, which is just amazing. So
what
you
does
can
that
actually-
mean?
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
It's just, I'm going to be very, very happy about this in case, I end up with, my family has a history of neural disorders. Like in the future, I might actually be able to get a stem cell implant and have new neural cells put in there.
So how'd
Maybe
they make
glial
it?
cells too.
Not only that, but it's going to help a lot with like research on other diseases too, because it's a really good tool to study different neurological diseases. But I mean, it's just too bad, like we were saying before about NASA. It's just too bad that most of the funding for science comes from the government. I
Yes.
mean, I'm a scientist myself, and
Right.
I see it all the time. It's so unfortunate. Even like these private companies that are ostensibly supposed to be in the quote unquote free market, they all take money from the government
And it
for
was the
research and development, and then they have these patents that they spend so much of their venture capital just getting all the correct patents lined up and doing this intellectual property stuff. And by the time they're done with that, they have like no money left for actual R&D until the government gives them more. It's insane.
And it's
Yeah,
also
Ryan-
a trap
Ryan
in
has some
some
great
ways.
stories about this, by the way. So you should just ask him
Oh,
about
dude,
any
yeah.
of the
Well,
If
I mean,
you ever
Dar-
work in a lab,
DARPA
there's
founding.
yeah, there's two types of labs you can work in. You can work in a quote unquote private lab or a public lab. Either way, you're getting funded by the government. But if you work in a public lab, if you're working at a university or something like that, you discover something new, and it's always like, oh crap, we gotta publish, we gotta get it out there. You know, you gotta talk, you gotta tell people, and you're publishing so that you get a nice reputation. So when you apply for the random DARPA grants for whatever the heck it happens to be next time, you can fund your lab and do what you want to do by basically lying to DARPA usually. So, you'll find some random grant that'll be like, yeah, we need you to detect large metallic objects that are under this amount of water using microphones that would be embedded in sand below them. And you're like, you want microphones to detect nuclear subs? They're like, no. We want, you to detect large metallic objects. So you write some grant proposal that meets that, and you're like, yeah, I'm working with microphones. And meanwhile, you produce Thinking Liberty or something like that with the money. But it's so in the public lab,
Yeah,
you-
we are producing this underwater, with
underwater
microphones
based on the DARPA grant.
with large
Yeah.
metallic items. If you catch
But yeah,
my
on the
drift.
public side, you publish, and you write your grant proposals to get your money from the government.
of steel.
On the private side, as soon as you find something, it's like, okay, now you get to spend months with lawyers who are going to try to wrap their heads around enough of the science that they can get the most vague patents they could ever possibly get, so that you can secure this monopoly privilege basically from the government anyway, as another way of securing government funding. So both publicly and privately, when you're working in a lab, you are basically trying to secure public funding or not public funding, government funding in two different ways.
Speaking of mind fruit and patents, screw Apple. Like, I hope that Samsung gets their goat in court, because Apple has gone and sued Samsung over all these like really dumb patents that they have on iOS and the iPhone, and so now Samsung is attacking them back with more like patent violation crap. It's really ridiculous. It's a waste of all of our the consumers' money that they've given to these companies that often make devices that we want, and I'm hoping that the judge laughs Apple out of court, because some of the patents are really ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Though.
But
they
if
have
not,
almost no
they're
grounds,
just-
and it's going to be dismissed.
If that does not happen, though, it'll just end up with Samsung and Apple co-licensing their patents. But the other thing is their whole App Store trademark thing that they're going after Amazon
Oh,
for,
with Amazon, yeah.
which is great, because Amazon just released some information from a October of last year, like not press release, but the like quarterly, conference call where
Yeah.
Steve Jobs uses the words App Store in a generic fashion to refer to Android. So it's us.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'll just give the judge this, and then Steve Jobs will have ruined their lawsuit.
Dude, if I was Apple, I would totally go into court with the Steve Jobs is an idiot defense. I'd be like, come on, he's Steve Jobs. He's an idiot. We all know he's an idiot.
He's
That'd be
just,
my- we
he's
don't-
just the pretty face that we put on front of everything.
So
But
He's
also
just a
speaking of,
rebel genius billionaire who he happened to keep around because he's just like that. But he will shoot off the mouth. I'm thinking the lawsuit that Paul Allen, the guy from Microsoft, the one that he sued like absolutely everybody with. I don't know how that's going to go, but hopefully that'll get tossed out as well. And there's another suit that happened between, was it not Google, but it's is it Toshiba? I think it's either Toshiba suing Apple or Apple suing Toshiba, or maybe back and forth. Apple's probably the most sued IP company out there right now. So this is going to be a very interesting time, and hopefully it'll bring about the end of intellectual property in the next, say, 20 years or so.
Meanwhile, Lifehacker had their Hackintosh episode. Did you see that?
mm-mm.
They had this like
Nope.
doodle-doo little Hackintosh summary. It's like, hey, you want a Mac? You want to build it? Boom, 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 done. 4
Nice.
minutes.
They Lifehacker has a lot of good things. Also related to Mindfruit, I thought this was good. On Ars Technica, the article is called "Competing with Free: Anime Site Treats Piracy as a Market Failure." Now, I would
Yes.
have to say that this article, that headline, is not technically correct. It should be public good, treating piracy as a public good. And what this company does, I think they're called Crunchyroll. It's sort of like YouTube, but originally it was sort of like YouTube, but for anime. And they ended up getting rid of all user-generated content because most of it was pirated. And now they license the anime from Japan directly, and they get it like a week before it actually airs. They'll do the translation, and then for like $7 a month, you have full access to all these different shows. And
Like
so
an hour after they air in Japan.
yeah,
Real
and they
quick.
basically they undercut the pirates both in time and really in money, because your time is worth so much to actually find them, download them. I mean, certainly you might have a constant source for certain things. It might be really easy, but in this case, if you're a casual anime viewer, the amount of effort that for $7 in a month, and I think much of it is free also, but with commercials like Hulu. So. This article goes into detail on how it is that these guys have basically undercut pirates.
well, because
And-
pirates are spending everything on ale and wenches, right?
Yes, that's it.
They're wasting,
That's it
they have
exactly. But they
much higher overheads.
they give some
And
numbers.
pirate metal.
Pirate metal. They give some numbers that the studios that generate this anime, they found that when they put their show up on Crunchyroll, that they see a reduction of 60 to 70% in the amount of people trading their wares online.
So it sounds like there's a market for this, and when people are not getting supplied with it, they find ways outside of the approved economy to meet their needs.
I'll tell you, my own personal piracy has dropped incredibly since Megan got Netflix, and my viewing choices are pretty close to whatever Netflix wants to feed me. So whereas before I'd look up a torrent, I'd be like, what was the last thing that was in the theaters that looked remotely interesting? Now I'll just look on Netflix and I'll be like, ooh, they got every James Bond movie. I'm like, that'll fill several weekends for me. I could start from 64 and work all the way up.
I was really happy that recently they added Bill Hicks, more
God.
George Carlin, and some Sam Kinison, because I'm a big stand-up comedian fan. I love those guys, and I was really disappointed when I first signed up to Netflix that they had very few of those real hardcore stand-up comedians, and now they've got a bunch of maybe all of Carlin's shows, a couple of things by Bill Hicks and Sam Kinison. So I've been watching those lately.
Very cool.
Cool. So we got about 10 minutes left. Bosco, did you have some stories you wanted to tell everyone?
Do you want to tell your stories? So, actually, this gets into the prize that we didn't get to announce. I made a thing on the website about it, but anyway, we'll get to it. So, I went to hike the Appalachian Trail this last
Really?
week. Yeah, really, the Appalachian Trail for
All of it.
just not all of it, just a very, very, very small part. And I was planning to spend 2 days on the trail, and I was picking it up. If you take 80 West out of Jersey at the Del Water Gaps, where I was picking it up. And if you've never hiked in Jersey, I don't recommend it. But anyway, I got out of my car and I like get my pack on. I'm like, all right, I'm ready for my hike. I like the Appalachian Trail. You know, you can camp off the trail basically anywhere you want, so you don't have to walk a certain distance or anything. You just got to worry about water, blah blah blah. So the first thing I'm greeted with is this giant sign. It's like, "Welcome to New Jersey Worthington
Yeah,
State
they always
Forest."
make you feel so welcome with a giant sign full of rules.
And yeah,
Like,
and then there's like 10 rules. It's like no open fires. If you're a through hiker, you can only camp here, and it's this spot that's like 3.5 miles in. There's like, know this, know that, no drinking, don't do this, don't do that. So that immediately made me look at the map, and I was like, all right, how big is this damn forest? It's like, it's New Jersey. I'm like, I bet you I could just hike straight through this stupid thing to a better part of the trail where there's less rules. And it turns out it goes up 3.75 miles, and then it carries on for a total like 7 point something miles, and you basically get out of this forest area. So at that point, I made my mind up. I was like, well, I guess I'm hiking till I'm out of this stupid forest today. So I start out on the trail, and I hike up, and I go to Sunfish Pond, and it's kind of nice, but it's there's a lot of people there. It's the middle of the week, and I've already seen a couple of people. So I keep hiking. I hike out of the forest, and I get to the other side, and it's like, you're on the Appalachian Trail. You can camp 50 feet off the trail, but not more than 150 feet away from the trail. This particular part, you couldn't have open fires. But it was kind of cool. I was up on a ridge line, 1,300 feet up, so I got a nice view of the Delaware and stuff like that. And that's when I realized that I had forgotten some things. Like I didn't bring a flashlight. I realized I didn't bring the ground pad that I normally have. And lastly, I realized that I didn't bring any type of eating utensil. So I did what any sane person would do, and I broke off a tree branch, and I promptly whittled myself a spoon that I used to make my mac and
Wow.
cheese and to eat my mac and cheese. Oh, trust me, it's not a very good spoon. It's only marginally effective. But anyway,
I'm still impressed. That takes talent.
with the spoon, well, that is the prize that we are going to do for the giveaway. So you could win not only a Thinking Liberty t-shirt, but a used Appalachian Trail wooden spoon.
This is a limited edition, one-of-a-kind survival spoon that has been inside the mouth of one of Thinking Liberty's esteemed hosts.
hard to clean, and it probably still smells like mac and cheese.
Darren, you should go into marketing.
But so I cooked my mac and cheese, and I got everything set up before the sun was going down because, heck, I wasn't going to be able to see anything. And
She can see in the dark.
you're camping basically on top of bedrock because you're kind of at the top of a ridge. So if you haven't been sleeping on the ground much before, if you don't have a pad underneath you, it's not so much about comfort, but it will just suck the heat like right out of your body. You will get cold if you just lay on the cold ground. And it's still getting pretty cold around here at night. So I was pretty much up all night. I probably caught maybe like 2 or 3 hours, but I was mostly like too cold and shaking to sleep. So I had my sleeping bag. I didn't have the thermal part of it, and I didn't have anything between myself and the ground other than the bottom of the tent. So I was kind of like shaking all night. I decided, I was like, all right, we are definitely ill prepared. The Boy Scouts would not be happy with me. I was like, we'll just hike, the 10 miles that I went out. I'm like, I'll just hike 10 miles back tomorrow and go home rather than stay the night. But if you ever want to get a really good feel for your, you want to feel very confident in your physique, I highly suggest sleeping on cold ground all night long, because once you shake enough, your muscles just kind of permanently tense up, and you walk around like somebody who's flexing all the time. So you get your arm muscles bulging out all the time. That was kind of cool. I like that part of it. But anyway, I went to walk back. I passed this guy who had his campsite set up like it was straight out of the LL Bean catalog. Like, this guy had everything at his campsite. He had this special like food bag tied up in a tree. Meanwhile, I had like a plastic grocery bag I brought with me that I put my food in and tied up in a tree. He had like the 3-person dome tent. I have like the 2-person eBay tent that I fixed some holes in. Like, this guy
So
was.
does your story end with you getting eaten by a bear?
No, I did not get eaten by
Clearly
a
not.
bear. There was supposedly bears around, but as long as you keep your food and you're cooking away from where you sleep, you tend to do fine. So I woke up in the morning, I walked the 10 miles back, and actually I went to the high school I work at to go feed the fish. Somebody commented after I hadn't slept for like 24 hours or whatever it was, and I was shaking and very pale as I walked into the high school. They're like, "Oh, you don't look very good." And I was like, "I need to feed the fish." and I fed the fish, and then I went home and I slept for a while. But yeah, all in all, I saw, to give you an idea how popular this trail is, on my hike back, I was hiking back on a Thursday, I saw 13 other hikers in the course of 3.75 miles.
I'll see where I went for a day hike the other day. I saw 0 hikers the whole time.
Nice. Yeah, so I mean, I would recommend hiking this part of the Appalachian Trail if you're willing to put in the 7 miles it takes to get away from everybody else and actually get on the Appalachian Trail. Wasn't bad. I'd probably do it again. I'd be more prepared. But the important thing for our fans out there is a wooden spoon that is going to be included in this week's T-shirt giveaway, and Darian is going to come up with the theme for the giveaway. Take it away, Darian.
I was just about to ask you, what's the giveaway?
I don't know. We need to come up with some sort of thing. Nobody participated in our
Giveaway.
last one, by the way.
All right, so we were talking about some science news. Let's do something along those lines. So, let's say there's a human settlement. Well, I guess they're talking about putting people on Mars.
I thought you were going to
Let's
say human centipede.
Let's
That's some science news.
All right, let's say there's a human settlement on Mars in the year 2050, and they have to do something about all of their sewage. What would you suggest?
Yes.
Best suggestion in the chat room
How to handle space poop.
For-
your best suggestion.
for space poop, for humanor, spacefaring humanor.
All right,
Go.
so
Chat room. I guess you could call it in if you want. 919-88-NO-GOV.
you got 4 minutes to the end of the
4
show.
minutes.
Your best advice for space poop. Winner gets
Can I-
a shirt and a spoon.
Can I
Not
win this?
with no poop on it. I hope.
Did
right?
you say with no poop on it?
I could totally win this very easily, but I'm not.
You're not going to.
I shouldn't get involved. I'm not going to get involved.
All right, we've got some good suggestions right now. We've got somebody suggested that they catapult it back to Earth.
It's like the moon is a harsh mistress, but you get a giant bowl of feces.
Just burning up in the atmosphere. Even if it doesn't make it down here, it's going to smell terrible. Have midgets wrestle in it? Wow, we have taken the end of this show to an all-time
I don't
low.
think wrestling in it counts as dealing with. I don't know. Maybe
build a new planet entirely out of space poop.
Now that's thinking ingeniously. You take waste and you make something good. One man's space poop is another man's space station.
Oh god.
Fight some monkeys for a
Wow.
giant fecal fight. I don't think that would really dispose of it. So
It would do some. It would disperse it. It's
that might be sufficient.
sufficient to dispersing it. All right, so we got some suggestions. I mean, keep them coming. You got 2 more minutes, and then we'll sum it up and announce a winner.
Tennyson, Stephanie, any suggestions?
Yes, nanotechnology.
Nanotechnology.
Yes. I'm
I
sure
don't know.
next.
I got
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I got a suggestion from someone that Tennyson and I should just hot talk to each other the whole rest of the show, and that would negate the poop because it would be so sexy. So there we go. Problem solved.
All right, you got it.
Okay, Tennyson, let's go. You ready?
Hey,
All
how
right.
you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Thinking
listen-
Liberty is a great
we are
podcast.
We are thinking Liberty right now. I've been listening to your voice. Like, my gosh. I posted earlier. I was like, gosh, she sounds so hot today.
Oh, wow. Thank you. I didn't even see that post, but I think you sound hot every day. I wasn't
No.
kidding about that iPhone app to measure the temperature around you.
Well, I gotta admit, it's true. It's all true. Sorry.
All the rumors are true.
All the
About
rumors
Tennyson,
are-
international man of mystery.
Yeah, not so much mystery, but no, I do have some fun. So. You like fun?
I think this one wins. Who do we give the shirt to?
That's amazing. All right. I suppose Tennyson. When's the next time we're going to see you?
Tennyson can't get a shirt. He's on the show.
Well, we can just
Yeah.
give him one the next time we see him. And I was thinking we can mail Stephanie a shirt with the spoon in it too.
That works.
Oh, that would
Give me
be
the vector Image,
amazing.
I'll make my own shirt. Give me the vector image.
Give you.
If you guys mail me a shirt, I'll take a sexy picture for you.
Oh, somebody's
Awesome.
time.
Will you
time
be
to wake up.
holding Ryan's spoon in this sexy picture?
That'll negate some of the sexy right there. The wooden spoon.
Preferably with freeze-dried mac and cheese or whatever. Not freeze-dried.
As you said, mac and cheese, not something else that we've been talking about for the last 7 minutes or so. All right.
All right.
It's 10 o'clock. The show is over.
All right, Stephanie, you're the winner. You get a shirt, a spoon. Tennyson, next time
I'll
I see
watch it
you,
first.
I'm going to throw some shirts at you.
All right. So I think this is a great time to end Thinking Liberty. Thanks for taking it out on such a high note there. Did we get any other suggestions for the space poop before
got a
or
lot of
during
suggestions.
in the chat room there?
One of them was fap.
I don't think that was in relation to the
All right. Well, thank you for your suggestions. Thank you for listening to Thinking Liberty. And if you're listening live or you're downloading this later, you can get more episodes of Thinking Liberty, the previous ones, at thinkingliberty.net. You can click on our donations tab. You can participate in the discussion. You can email us, become a fan on Facebook and Free Agents. And thank you. And good night. Be free.
Stay free.
Yes.
Always.
Squeeze the life out of me. Frozen Now